All right, joining us now from Washington is the guy right in the middle of all of this. Uh, Senator Tommy Tuberville from Alabama is on the Armed Services Committee, which is in play right now to interview Hegseth and Rubio. So, number one, have you talked to your Democratic colleagues about kind of the blackmail? We're going to shut everything down in the Senate unless you do what we want. Have you spoken to them?
Well, Bill, thanks for having me on. But for 6 years that I've been up here, from a football coach to a United States senator, I've never seen a group of people like the Democrats that hate President Trump or our country so much that they would do anything to harm our country. And again, you just had a couple of people on that I don't know where these people come from. I mean, if Donald Trump said the world was all green, they disagree with him. I mean, it just everything in the world that he does. Now, at the end of the day, on the Armed Services Committee, most of us in there, including some of the Democrats, we all understand because we've been well briefed on what's going on in Iran, and it's hard to say that these people would be against it, but they listen very well. They ask great questions. And are they on the same side as President Trump? Probably not, but they understand the significance of the safety of what President Trump is trying to do and trying to take Iran down a notch before these evil people would shoot off a nuclear weapon. So it's a very interesting time up here, Bill. We're not getting anything done other than President Trump executive ordering, doing anything in terms of going after Venezuela, after Iran. I've been all for it because I've seen all the briefings, all the classified stuff. He had to do this. He had no doubt. Now, as you just said, ground troops, I don't think that's going to happen, but you never say never at the end of the day because you don't know how they're going to react along the next 3 or 4 weeks.
No, I mean, I'm not talking military strategy here. As you know, Senator, I'm talking the perception of the American people that if you did that, you would lose the country. The only Democratic senator that had spoken in favor of this action is Fetterman of Pennsylvania. While the others may be listening respectfully in your committee, and I believe you, they're afraid, I believe, to speak out and say, you know what, based on the classified information that we've seen, this was the right tactic to take. You have to neutralize a dangerous regime like this. Why do you think they're all afraid to say that?
Well, I think they're afraid to say it because it's going to give President Trump an opportunity to have a plus on his side of the aisle. And they don't want to give President Trump credit for anything. Again,
every Democrat in the Senate that you know, there's not one or two that would say put their country first and rise above the partisan politics? Nobody?
No, because Chuck Schumer runs that floor with a iron stick, and they follow him like a bunch of ducks following each other in a line. Ever since I've been here, that's happened. Now, Fetterman has come out because he's big for the Israelis, and that's the reason that he's on the side of President Trump on this invasion, because he understands the significance for what Iran could do to Israel if they had a nuclear weapon. That's the only way this is working out. But again, they would not vote for anything. Even if they thought it would really help the American people, the Democrats aren't going to vote against it because of the hate for Donald J. Trump.
And Schumer used to be a rational person, but now he's a 100% partisan person. Am I wrong on that?
No, you're exactly right. But they all follow Barack Hussein Obama. He's the one running the show here. And ever since I've been here,
how do you know that, though? How do you know Obama's involved?
Well, just because of being up here for 4 years and seeing Joe Biden and the people that were making all the decisions for him, we knew that all the people that were making those decisions had worked for Barack Obama in his previous tenure as being president. And you can't tell me that they weren't conversing together with the people that were implanted in Joe Biden's administration. They all worked for Barack Obama.
But Obama didn't want Iran to be empowered. He tried to make deals. They broke the deals. And Biden was ridiculous in handing over the billions of dollars that he did, and that didn't work. Okay. Now, I don't want you to give away any national security secrets, but the dissenters of this say, look, President Trump bombed Iran's nuclear facility in June. And supposedly that just set them back and wiped them out, the capacity to develop a nuclear bomb went away because of that action. Now the administration, the Trump administration, said, no, they still have a capacity to develop this bomb. Where? How did that happen? We didn't get everything?
Well, they were enriching uranium. But here's one of the reasons that President Trump went in. They were building ballistic missiles right and left. It was about nuclear weapons. It was about that, but it was also about the ballistic missiles that they were building that could reach far and near. And they were very, very accurate. And so that's one of the reasons that we went at this time. Of course, you look at a situation that how weak they were. We knew they were weak. We knew they were struggling in a lot of areas. President Trump had put them in a bad situation when it come to having a lot of loyal people on the ground in Iran. He was killing his people right and left. Now we know that for a fact. Tens of thousands of people were laid down. Their life was spared because they were not loyal to Khomeini. So President Trump put all that together and said, enough's enough. We're going to do this. We're going to go in with Israel. We're going to make a statement, and they have made that statement. And again, also, there's another thing there, the oil that they have. They were giving cheap oil to China, and it was a situation like Venezuela. We cut off Venezuela, we cut off China, Iran's oil, then they have a tough time. But again, it all goes back to one thing. If it wasn't for nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles, President Trump would not have done this.
All right. So the delivery system of the nukes, but there,
Right.
as far as you know, and you would know, their nuclear weapons development isn't
Right.
imminent that they're going to have a nuke to put on the ballistic missile to fire into Tel Aviv.
Exactly. And,
Okay,
and,
so it's still it's still a ways away from that happening. So,
but you go in there, Bill, when they're weaker.
okay,
Don't wait until they're stronger. Go in there when they're weak. They're as weak as they've ever been, and it was a perfect timing because they didn't think this would happen so quick after the strike back in June. So it was a perfect time to do this, well orchestrated. And again, you got to look out for the people that are also your allies. And it was about Israel also.
Okay. But it doesn't look like the Persian people are going to be able to rise up and overthrow that government. So the number we hear, and you can confirm this number if you can, is 30,000 protesters were murdered by the regime in Tehran. And now the people are frightened that they're going to be murdered. So there is no uprising in coordination with the bombing of that country. Do I have that right?
Yeah, 30,000 plus. And then, of course, you would hope that they'd have regime change of somebody that would be more of like the people that
is that possible, though, Senator? Is it possible that the people will rise up? Because that would make our lives here in America a lot easier, wouldn't it?
Oh, it'd really make it a lot easier. But you never know when you do this. You go in there and you see these pictures on television. You don't know what the propaganda is. You see all these people out in the streets, and we've seen this in other countries too. They're behind the scenes telling them, you get out there with this sign, you get out there and chant this or that. You got to remember, there's 90 million people in Iran, and there's a lot of people. There's a lot of land there. It's bigger than Texas, bigger than Alaska. So there's a lot more people there than you would think. It's just the people in charge were able to pull off this, and I guess get Khomeini's son elected. But my understanding too that he's had a few health problems himself the past couple of weeks.
Well, he'll have more if they ever find out where he is. How do you see this playing out? I mean, I'm not big on speculation on this program. We're fact-based, but you're a guy who has access to an awful lot of information. How do you see this playing out, keeping in mind that the American people really don't have the heart to suffer economically? I mean, we just don't. We're a soft nation. We don't want to suffer for something, 5,000 miles away. So how do you see it playing out?
Well, first of all, Bill, and you're in my lifetime, we hadn't won a lot of wars since World War II, especially ones that go longer and longer. Vietnam, for instance, we supposedly won in Iraq, but there wasn't even a fight there. We went in for false causes because of weapons of mass destruction. But that being said, President Trump's not going to be over there that long. He's not that type of person. Now, I will tell you this, and he's said this publicly: all hell's getting ready to rain on Iran the next few weeks because he wants this to end, and he's going to get it to the point where he thinks it might have a regime change or put them in a situation where they never can recoup from what we have destroyed. So, yeah, things are going to pick up. It is just that's the way it is. And again, President Trump went in there. He wasn't going in there as I will say half-assed. He's going all in. And I've talked to the Secretary of War. I've talked to General Kane. This is something that they've been planning for a while. And if they were going to do it, they were going to do it the right way. But this is not going to be a long, drawn-out war. That's not going to happen.
All right. So just summing up, there has to be some kind of change in the Iranian government in order for this to end, correct?
Well, yeah, there has to be some kind of change in direction. Again, right. What direction do you take, though? If we destroy everything that they've got in terms of military,
but you gotta make sure that the tankers can go in and out. You know, an interesting aside, China hasn't said a word about this publicly. I mean, they issued some kind of mealy-mouthed statement, but you would think they'd be more bellicose in supporting Iran. They haven't been, which tells me that they were tipped off and they don't want to disrupt the conference that begins at the end of the month when President Trump goes to Beijing. I don't know if you're aware of this, Senator, but I was in Beijing speaking to the government there in May, not on President Trump's behalf. As a journalist, they invited me. And they want to make a deal with the USA, but they're kind of just sitting this thing out, as is Putin. He's not doing anything. So Iran's pretty much alone right now. And if U.S. and Israel can basically decapitate all of their ability to wage war, I guess that would be considered a victory. Last word.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think Russia and China both are going to sit back and see how far this goes. Again, President Trump wants to make a statement here. We do have to get the straits opened up for oil and gas to go in and out. That will happen in the very near future. But again, I just can't believe that this regime, after losing all their top leaders, maybe even their second team leaders, that they're not trying to make some kind of deal because they've got a death wish here. Because President Trump is not going to stop the bombing. It's going to keep going, and they're not going to have anything to work with. You hate it for the Iranian people that want some kind of freedom, but this group continues to hang on. I think what you'll see in the very near future will open the straits up. China and Russia is not going to say a word, because when they get the straits opened up, it's going to probably help China a little bit with their oil and gas, and there'll be a little bit more calm in that area. But it all goes back to one other group, Israel. How much more do they want? Are they going to send in ground troops? We haven't talked.
They won't do that. Netanyahu will do pretty much what Trump tells them to do. Just my opinion, Senator, but I kind of know a lot about this kind of stuff. Anyway, look, keep us posted. You're a great guest, and we really appreciate you taking the time. I think you brought more clarity to this than any other person I've seen on television. So thank you very much for helping us out tonight.
Thank you.
Okay.